Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Great Awakening Generator with me, Rose McNair. And today I have Monk Manobi with me. And before we say hello to him, let me tell you what we're doing together. We are launching today the series called Moments with the Monk. It came up just like that on the fly, and I think that's okay. We'll go with it, right? So welcome, Manobi. How are you?
I'm doing very well, thank you. Very blessed with all the opportunities for expanding spirituality in my own life and the life of others at the moment. So, yeah, that's what I'm doing this occupation for. That's what my purpose. So I feel very fulfilled in that regard. And you?
Well, I'm okay. I'm also believing I'm fulfilling my purpose even in doing this with you. I'm coming to see more and more the light in this, that it's probably what I'm supposed to be doing. And so we continue doing it for however long we need to, because we're in a time of that's so necessary for us to be together and I suppose know your purpose and fulfill your purpose, right? Yeah. So what are we going to have for moments with the monk today?
Okay, so for the next few sessions, we were wanting to perform some mindfulness practices, give you guys, the listeners here, something to take away with you, some tools for how to become more mindful, more conscious in your life, more peaceful, and more connected to your spiritual side, to the divine, ultimately, divine energy, source of everything. And one of the main practices that we do as monks within the Bhakti Yoga tradition is chanting on what are known as Jappa beads,
Okay.
or mala beads for short. And yeah.
There's mine, one of mine anyway. I'm wearing one and I've got one. So you're saying Jappa Male. I say Male. I just say Male, and mine is with the Bodhi beads, right? From the Bodhi tree. Yours is the same thing? Is it different, right?
Yeah, generally the type of wood we call is called tulsi. It's a sacred wood in India. And especially conducive for this type of meditation.
Okay. So is tulsi a tree or is it a bush?
It's a tree. It's a tree.
Okay. Yeah. All right. I asked that because we have a thing that we use called tulsi leaves and in South Africa.
Yeah.
And you would normally use the leaves to bring healing and things like that if someone's got measles or whatever. Yeah. Okay.
Yes, it's the same source basically, but they do grow quite large.
Okay.
Yeah.
In India, they probably do. Wow, I didn't realize that could be. But I need to get one of your Jappa malas, I think, because I'm sure it smells good.
Definitely.
Yeah.
You got to collect them all as well.
So tell us about these beads now. What you do with them? Why would you do it?
Okay, so first of all, the word japa, it's a Sanskrit word which means to chant a mantra to yourself. And the beads are simply for counting how many mantras you do. The practice can be quantified, in other words. So when we chant mantras, specifically the Maha Mantra, the Hare Krishna mantra, we use these beads to keep track of how many mantras we chant a day. So there are 108 beads on one of these, and we chant one mantra for each bead 16 times. So that's 16 times 108. And that's considered the standard number for our particular practice. And as with any mantra, it was said in ancient Indian culture, spiritual culture, that every mantra, it's like a type of prescription medicine. It treats different, I guess, ailments you may have in your life, whether it be physical, whether it be mental or spiritual. So the Maha Mantra is prescribed for this age for reawakening our spiritual consciousness, which sometimes, as we grow up and become conditioned in this material world, can become obscured. So it's for reawakening us to our original spiritual consciousness. That makes sense.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. So it's a physical tool, if anything, that you use, and I suppose you quantify it because there are 108 and you are doing one bead per mantra, and you and that mantra is chanted 16 times.
Yes.
I did not know that, because that's like intense, because you know I know that I use mine, not always, but sometimes if I feel I want to do that, then because mine also has 108 beads, and so I will do it, but I only do one verse at a time. So my goodness. So how many verses would you have per mantra in this, for example?
How many verses per mantra?
Yeah.
So the mantra itself, the Hare Krishna mantra, it has about 16 words.
Okay.
Or 16 words, I guess you could say, which make up the whole mantra.
Okay.
So in terms of the amount of words that we chant, I'll just do a quick calculation. So that's 27,648 a day.
Wow.
But in terms of how many mantras, it's 1,728. So yeah, it sounds like a lot, but it's something that you build up to. So it took me a year to build up to that many. And it takes between an hour and a half to 2 hours, which again may sound like a lot, but you get used to it. And actually you find when the mind is clear, actually you manage your time a lot better.
I agree.
Yeah.
Definitely. So when you do this, you're doing it in the early hours of the morning. Is it like the first practice you would do first thing in the morning when you wake up?
Yeah, that's correct. Usually it's in a time of the day where it's 1.5 hours before sunrise. It's in Sanskrit, there's a special term for that. It's called the Brahma Muhurta period. And that's just a period where it's most conducive for spiritual practices, for reflection and study of ancient spiritual scriptures.
Yeah.
Now, practically speaking, no one's awake at that time. So yeah, it's very easy to find a very quiet place and just meditate.
Yeah.
I
love that time of the day, actually.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful time. So my question is, so now this is what a monk does. What would you advise an ordinary person to do if you're going to encourage people to practice mindfulness using the male and or mala, and say, well, okay, do your chanting, chant your mantra with your mala. What is, firstly, why the number? Before you tell us what an ordinary person would do, what you would recommend for an ordinary person or a person who's not a monk, tell us why the numbers. What does it do for you?
So these numbers were again prescribed by a particular, I guess, sage, rishi, teacher who came in our line, known as Srila Prabhupada. And in India, you'd be surprised, actually, for people who took to this practice, it was recommended that they chant 64 rounds of these beads. And that's about 8 hours a day. So 16 was actually considered more practical for people in our circumstances. And it's not just monks who chant that number. Actually, to be a monk is quite rare, even within our tradition. It makes up a small percentage. 99% of the people who practice bhakti yoga are working class, and they have kids, they have family, have things going on. But if they take to the practice fully, then they're chanting this many rounds. So it's not that you have to jump from 0 to 16 straight away. It's just the recommended amount for making sure that your consciousness is fully connected to, the divine, who we also describe using the word Krishna. Krishna means the all-attractive source of pleasure. So you don't have to start with 16. Of course, you build up to it. Okay. It took me a year to build up to it. But you chant as many mantras, rounds on the beads as you can. in a way which suits you, which is comfortable and allows you to remain consistent. Because as with any meditation practice, any yoga practice, consistency is key.
Yes.
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 So
I
whatever
agree with
feels
that.
comfortable for you at the beginning.
Yeah. So, okay. So I understand about the why you quantify it. And what does it do for you? I know, okay, so there's that thing of being able to do it in a specific amount of time that you will build up to when you're doing the mantras and you're using the male and you got that many mantras you're doing and you're chanting it so many times per bead, 16 per bead. What does it do for you? What is the progression in this?
Well, a practice like this is actually, it's a lifetime practice. So the progression, it's very gradual, but it's also very noticeable. Like as with any type of practice, the effects of doing it a little bit every day, it compounds over time. So the number one thing that it allows us is to actually make a genuine spiritual connection to the divine. There are many different methods, but according to the ancient scriptures of India, it was recommended that a person chant mantras, specifically the Maha Mantra, in order to reach enlightenment. There are different prescriptions for different ages. And one of the previous cosmic ages known as Satya Yuga, we're in Kali Yuga right now, maybe you've heard. Satya Yuga, the practice was just meditation and Ashtanga yoga. That was the meditation for self-realization in that age.
Yeah.
The next stage, Treta Yuga, the practice for that was actually elaborate sacrifices to what were known as the devas, the high beings, high celestial beings within this realm.
Mm.
In the previous age, Dwapara Yuga, which is like autumn, the autumn in terms of, if you look at things in terms of seasons, the practice was worshipping a form of the Supreme in a temple. But in this particular age, although there are many different practices we can do, mantra meditation is said to be the most efficient and the quickest. And it's the quickest in helping us to uncover our real spiritual identity, which is it's definitely something desirable for any spiritualist, understanding who you are on the deepest level. And there are byproducts as well. Of course, you do feel a sense of inner contentment. You do feel the mind becoming more and more under your control. And yes, there are some videos you can watch, explaining how this mantra has a positive effect also on your physical health. But those are just byproducts. The main idea is that we're trying to make a spiritual connection which is beyond space and time, which lasts.
Yeah.
So it might sound like quite a high ideal, but yeah, in the immediate future of practicing, you can feel definitely a sense of satisfaction, which we're all looking for ultimately.
Yes, absolutely. Peace.
Yes.
Peace from within. I listen to the Gayatri mantra a lot, and I do the Gayatri as well. And the one thing I've noticed when I was doing the Gayatri, I mean, I just sang it, I chanted it, without beads. Always it paces me. It just almost feels like when I would ordinarily rush, it sort of calms me down, and I'm sort of getting balance on how I actually function. So I do believe the mantras are amazing. But coming back to mantra with the male, I want to ask this question, because I was watching online, or I was reading up how you use the male. So I'm understanding that you use the male with your thumb. You do that. You rub it with your thumb and that middle finger. Is that right?
Yeah. That's correct. Yeah.
It's not that. It's not the thumb and the first finger. It's the thumb and the middle finger that you roll it.
Yes.
So, okay. So when we're rolling this, you're saying the mantra, right, all the time, and you're saying it 16 times. How do you know that you did it 16 times?
How do you know it? So basically, when we chant one mantra per bead, We go
Okay.
around. That's 108.
Okay.
So by going around once, we know we've done 108.
Yes.
And then in order to know that we've chanted 16 of those, then we have what's called some counter beads. So we have these bags which we chant them in.
Yeah.
But I imagine not every person has one of these in their home.
Yes.
So yeah, we usually can keep track through having some counter beads, which after every round we
You
slide
just
one over.
right.
And it helps us to keep track.
Okay.
It's easier than just trying to remember in your mind, definitely.
Yeah, of course. Yeah,
Yeah,
especially that you say you're doing the mantra as well. So that's really good.
Yes.
Are you allowed to say a mantra and show us what it looks like? Are you allowed to do that?
Yes. I'm allowed to do that. Luckily, this mantra is not a one that you purchase and keep to yourself. This is one that's for everybody.
Good.
Yeah, it's known as the Hare Krishna mantra. I'm wondering, if this video is being edited, maybe it could be, placed somewhere in the caption or something like that. Yeah, I've got a picture.
Absolutely, we can put in the
Yeah.
description what the mantra
Yeah.
is. Yes.
Yeah. So I've got an image of it. So the mantra goes like this. Maybe you can repeat after me. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Krishna Krishna.
Krishna Krishna.
Hare Hare.
Hare Hare.
Hare Rama.
Hare Rama.
Hare Rama.
Hare Rama.
Rama Rama.
Rama Rama.
Hare Hare.
Hare Hare.
So that's what the mantra looks like. Very easy you can find it online.
Yeah,
Look up
absolutely.
the Hare Krishna mantra,
Mm.
Maha Mantra. And yeah, if I was to chant it on beads, that's what you're asking. What would that look like?
Yes.
So obviously, just with the video that we have, I'll show you. So without one of these bags, I hold one side in the left hand, the other side that I'm chanting on in my right hand, between
Okay,
the middle finger and thumb.
Yeah.
You can see. And with every set of beads is what's known as the head bead.
Yeah.
Maybe you can see it here.
Yeah.
So we generally don't chant on that. There's another mantra we do for that, but to keep it simple, we just start on the next one over.
Yeah.
And then we start by closing your eyes. Obviously, we're preparing to focus the mind. Wherever the mind drifts off to, doesn't really matter. You want to bring it back.
Mm-hmm.
This is the key in any meditative practice,
Yeah.
bringing the mind back constantly. And then we just chant, at a volume that we can hear. So I can demonstrate, I can do maybe 10 mantras or so.
Yes.
And yeah, I'm sure you guys will get the gist. And if you don't have beads, if you have a clicker, if you just want to chant it freely at the beginning and acquire some later on, you can do that as well. So I'll chant the mantra that I would chant on the head bead anyway, just so you can kind of see. But you guys obviously don't need to remember this. So Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shiva Sari Gaura. And then I go to the next beat. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare. So that was 10, I believe. So yeah, it's a very simple practice. And that actually is quite easy to do. I've tried many different types of meditations prior, but I've always found this one the easiest, because the mantra itself is said to attract the mind. It can enchant the mind.
Yeah.
And yeah.
Yeah. I do love mantras, and I hadn't had beads for a long time, and I always just chanted the mantras, playing it in the background and chanted it. And I know that it moves and it shakes things about without it being invasive or you know, in an erratic way. It's just so easily done. It just shifts your space. So I recommend it. And of course, for anybody who doesn't have the mala beads, you know, use the mantra. There's a lot on YouTube. We can even put some links on there, if any that you recommend, and we can put the words that you just mentioned now. So yeah, I think what we're saying is that anybody can do this, and you can do this just so as a instead of a meditation, for example, where you can, this is one of the ways to bring your mind, to quieten the mind, to bring it back into space, because the mind is like a wild horse. It wants to run off everywhere.
Yes, definitely.
And yes, so one of the practices we can do is this. Anything else you want to tell us about the mala beads?
Well, not only can you chant on the beads, as I said, you can chant off the beads, but we also chant in another setting or arrangement known as kirtan.
Yes.
So kirtan is something that you may experience a lot if you go to certain parts of India. And you may also have been to a temple, a Hindu temple, and seen kirtan going on. Kirtan just means group chanting, coming together as a group and chanting a particular mantra. And for a lot of people, they find that even more powerful than chanting on the beads initially. While this does have the same potential to be as powerful, generally with a group, it's a lot easier.
Yes.
So that's something that we do incorporate with a lot of our activities that we do at the university and also at the loft. And yeah, it's something that you can experiment with. It's an experiment. Just go in with an open mind, try it out. If you need some beads, you can always contact me. I've got a whole bunch of them that we can mail out to anyone who's eager.
Yeah.
But yeah, just try it out. Try incorporate it in your life. Try it for a week and see how you go. I'm sure you'll be pleasantly surprised.
Oh yeah, I'm sure people will be pleasantly surprised too. I think we lose sight of how, or we're so busy with looking at other options, we forget that simple things like this can make a huge difference. And also, coming back to the 1.5 hours before sunrise that you get up and do this. I mean, you do this because this is how this is the life of a monk. But people can do this at any time, right?
Yeah, no time restrictions. There's no rules. You can do it anytime, anywhere. But obviously, in saying that, a quiet environment is best.
Always.
So if you can find that quiet space within your house or in a park, out in nature, yeah, it allows you to more easily focus on the mind. But there's no hard and fast rules, so to speak.
Yeah.
In terms of when to
yeah. I think out in nature is great, but obviously whatever's available to people. I know where I lived previously, my lounge and dining room was I would pace up and down the lounge and dining room because it was a long room and a lot of light coming through and all of that. I didn't have the nature to do it in. I could have, but at 4 a.m. in the morning when I can't sleep and I need to do, and I feel like I got to get up and do a mantra, I'm not going to go down to the beach. And so I just did it in the house and it was perfect. It was perfect. I think it's really about going within. This is about going within. This is about quietening the mind and going within. And even though you can do a kirtan, I hope I said that word, right?
Yes.
Even if you can do that, that is still being outward and you're doing it in a group session. And the big message at the moment is to come within and to quieten the mind and connect with the universe, with the higher realms, with God, as we want one way of calling it, or the deities, or Krishna. And because we're all looking for the purpose of life at the moment and how we navigate these times. So it has to come from within, right? The guidance
Yeah,
comes
very
from
true.
within.
Very true.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, the God self.
Yeah.
Yes. So, anything else before we go?
No, thanks. It was a nice session. I think I've said all I had to say for this
Thank you.
time round.
Yeah. Thank you so much anyway for doing this, for coming on board with my idea and saying, oh, I think we should have you on here, because I just love having you on here. I think it's an awesome thing that we can say you have come to do some mindfulness with us, and who knows, yeah, it'll reach many people, and we're doing another part, another facet for humanity, so that I'm really pleased with.
No, thank you for allowing me to be on your channel and creating a
You're always
space where
welcome.
people can actually connect to their higher purpose.
Great.
Much needed.
It is much needed. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. And we look forward to you joining us again next time. All right. Bye-bye.
Namaste. Hare Krishna. Cool.